What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is season 5, episode 11. And when I tell you the wave of emotions I went through, I went from laughing so hard that I almost started crying to actually tearing up at the end of this episode. Like, they got real raw at the end of this episode. And a lot of people are upset because they felt like there should have been a trigger warning. Because, I mean, it was real. It was a real conversation. But let's get into this video. Sometimes before we get into it, we get a little spicy, just a little bit. And I just got 3 things to talk to you today about. So first up, it looks like they're about to start filming the reunion. Andy sent out, his annual tweet for each reunion where he asked the viewers on Twitter, send me your questions, tell me where you're from. And I went to the quote tweets and the replies under Andy's tweet. And when I tell you, people had really good questions. So I do hope that they pull legit good questions from Twitter, because so I saw one that was like, I can't remember who they were posing it to, but it was like, if you did this, why didn't you expect her to do this? And I was like, oh, you right. And then another one was like, do you feel like it's ironic that you feel this way? People had their thinking caps on with these questions, and I'm excited for the reunion because I think they're starting to actually ask the good questions when it comes to viewers. So looking forward to the reunion. Next is Mary. So you guys know at the end of the episode, there was a very real and honest moment between Mary and her son. Well, a few of the Bravo celebrities came out to give their well wishes and to support Mary. So you have Portia Williams saying this: OMG, a mother's worst nightmare, praying so hard for Mary. I'm so glad he is doing better. You got Teresa Giudice coming out saying, praying for your son, sending him lots of love. You got Quad from Married to Medicine saying, I am in tears. I pray for strength for both of them during this time of recovery. Addiction is difficult, but it is not impossible to overcome. Then you have Chanel Ayan saying, this made me tear. The love between them. Prayers to your son, Mary. And then you have Wendy Osefu saying, my heart, and then tear emoji. So I wonder if that was underneath a clip that was actually shown online. Even Cynthia Bailey put 2 heart emojis and praying hands. You then have Chanel Ayan commenting on Twitter saying this: I just watched the scene with Mary and her son and I cried so much. When she said she was never happy before he was born, made me even cry more. I pray for them and sending them healing. What a raw and honest moment, and it's going to help a lot of people. Then you have Drew Sidora saying, this was a powerful episode of RHOSLC. My heart breaks for Mary. My prayers are with you and your family. You handled this raw and honest. Thank you for giving us the human moment, and I've truly connected. I will continue to uplift them both, claiming healing. And then Anila from Married to Medicine also said, such an amazing raw episode of Salt Lake City. My prayers are with you and Robert. And then she added Mary. So I think that's really nice that people were supporting them. I saw a lot of positive comments and support for from the fans perspective on Twitter and on BlueSky. I'm on BlueSky now. Check me out. Follow your girl. And then the last thing I want to talk about is Jill Zarin's daughter. So there was a lot of discourse about this, whether or not what Allie said was right or wrong. So I wanted to get you guys' opinions about it. So she posted to her Insta story and she said, maybe because I am a former housewife kid, I had a completely different take on this scene. I did not think it was okay that this was filmed like this. I think it should have been once he was in or out of rehab with a therapist. He doesn't seem like a public person. This will follow him for the rest of his life. While it was a powerful moment between a mom and her son, it is a moment I think should have been shared off camera or after he was healthy. These are real people and a 21-year-old kid who needs help. I want you to think a storyline and at what cost. So a lot of people were flaming her up. And I mean, they was going in on her because some people felt like, girl, he's 21. He knows the cameras are in there. He probably consented to it. But I can see it from her point of view, being a child that grew up on TV and not having the choice because Jill Zarin was on Real Housewives of New York to like say, no, I don't want to do this because her mom is filming. She probably does have a totally different perspective. And there was probably moments on that show she wished to keep private. I feel differently about this because like we know something's up with Robert. Like we've been saying that since episode 1 before we even found out that he was out here on that stuff, okay? And then last season there was those pictures that came out of Robert with his tongue out and there was pills on his tongue. So people automatically assumed that he was like doing drugs. So I'm like, if he's putting it out there and it's already on social media, I think it was better for them to have this conversation at his house in his room with his mom that was real and raw and honest versus like not doing it at all because people speculation, you know what I'm saying? But I don't fault Allie too badly. I feel like some fans were going a little too hard on her because I was just like, yo, she's entitled to her perspective because she's lived as, like she said, a housewife kid. So she sees things differently than us people who are viewers. So I didn't fault her for that, but I didn't think that Mary was using her son for a storyline. Like, I just think this is what it is. Like, you can clearly tell that child is under the influence. And then after the scene where he was laying in bed with his girlfriend, which again, disrespectful, I was like, you could tell that she was on something too. So clearly we need to address it. But I just want to know you guys' thoughts about what she had to say and everything that I talked about in the spicy corner. Let me know what type of questions that you would want like answered or asked at the reunion. So let's get into this review. So let's talk about this episode. So it opens up and you have Heather going to Whitney's house. We find out that they're planning this event, basically like Girl Scouts, and they want to play like campfire games with all of the women. Whitney's and Heather's relationship is weird to me because even though I haven't been watching Salt Lake City consistently, I did watch the first season and then I was off and on like seasons 2 and then I fell off season 3, but then I went back and like caught up and then I was in and out season 4. Threaded throughout all of the seasons, there's always a moment in like Salt Lake City where Whitney and Heather are like at odds, but then some weird way they find their way back to each other and they talk about being related and being cousins. And I've always felt like maybe they have like this sort of alliance where it's like they only beef for such a certain period of time and then they find their way back to each other. And I feel like they start trading secrets based off of what fractions that they're in, because it's weird, because I'm like, there's no way, cousin or not, that you would be saying things to me, threatening me the way Whitney and Heather speak to each other, and then we just cool like it's nothing. Like, we would have to have like serious conversations and you would have to prove to me you never gonna try me again. But they constantly go at it with each other that I'm starting to feel like they do it on purpose, and then they trade secrets when they get together, because it's like Whitney's with this group, which is Mary, Angie, and over here, and then Heather's with Lisa and Meredith, and then Bronwyn's kind of like in the middle because she floats between both. But it's like I feel like they be spilling tea to each other. Like when the cameras come down, they get to commiserating and telling everybody business, because I'm just like, it doesn't make sense how they're cool all of a sudden. Like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's weird. So we see them go sit out in Whitney's yard, and I think Whitney ends up asking Heather, like, who all do you want to invite? And Heather's like, I definitely want to invite Meredith. And Whitney's like, I love Meredith. And Heather's like, I love her too. But Whitney's like, I don't know if we could be in the same room after what happened at, Mary's house at the Breakfast and Tiffany's thing. And so they flash back to when Heather yanked Meredith's phone out her hand, and then Meredith, rightfully so, got up and yanked her phone back. I'm looking at Whitney like, ma'am, like, you lucky you didn't get muffed in the mouth, because the way you pulled her, like, you legit, her phone was like this and you yanked it out her hand like that. I promise you, I'd have popped you. like a parent, just smack that hand and grab my thing back. Cause like, what is wrong with you? Okay, Whitney. And she was like, no, I love Meredith, but I don't know. And then Heather's like, well, I don't think Meredith has ever been to like sleepaway camp. And she was like, is that why she's so like, like Meredith, like she's never had fun. I was just like, oh my gosh, shut up, Whitney. So then Whitney ends up saying that she wants to invite Bronwyn. She also tells Heather that she was actually proud of her for the way that she acknowledged her feelings at the Breakfast at Tiffany's thing at Mary's house, where she was like, I've never seen you speak that way or acknowledge your feelings or even apologize. Like, that takes a lot for you. So I'm actually proud of you. And Heather's like, I don't really know Bronwyn, but I've never been wrong about how I see people. And she was like, I still got my good eye on Bronwyn. Honestly, I just, like, if I'm being honest, I think she's sneaky. And I want to be able to trust her, but she just gives me the vibe that, like, once you leave the table, she talking bad about you. And I'm like, Heather, you do that. Everybody in this group does that. So if you can trust everybody else in this group, then you can trust Bronwyn. Because that made no sense. Made no sense. So we then switch from that scene and we see Meredith going to this museum, and she's walking around, and we find out that she has invited Mary to the museum so they can talk after she stormed out of her house. And Meredith basically is like, I don't want to play this game of like, chicken, like where we're waiting, like at a stalemate. Like, I just thought I was going to be the bigger person and invite her to come. So you see her walking around the museum. Next thing you know, it flashes to Mary trying to see how Robert Jr. is doing, like trying to talk to him while he's in his room. He's not opening the door. She's like knocking on the door, trying to see if he's awake. He's not waking up. So she basically was like, I don't even know why I'm talking to this door. I need to go, and I'll just call him. So we then see Meredith call her kids, because she's just like, this is so rude. Like, she's 40 minutes, almost 45 minutes late. Like, what's going on? So then she ends up calling Brooks and her daughter, and they're like, well, maybe something's happening, because Brooks was like, this is out of character for Mary. Maybe something's happening. And Meredith's like, yeah, maybe something has happened. So then we finally see Mary get there, and Meredith kind of got an attitude. Mary got an attitude, and she was like, girl, you're like 45 minutes late. Like, what's up? Like, is everything okay with you? And Mary's like, is everything okay with you? Very defensive, because she's dealing with what's going on with her son. When she was knocking on the door trying to see if he was going to come to the door, they give us a Mary's confessional where she was like, this Robert that I'm seeing, this is not the Robert that I know. Like, he's always asleep. He never really wants to do anything. We haven't really been talking to each other. Like, this is not my child. So Mary has like a lot of things weighing on her. But I fault Mary where she's like, in her confessional, Meredith doesn't even know what's going on with me right now. And that shows the state of our relationship. Well, if you're not sharing that information with her, how would she know? It's like my mom says, I'm not going to get it through osmosis. Like, if you don't tell them or explain to them that you're dealing with something with your child and you need like a bit of grace and understanding, then why would you just think that they would like automatically like get where you're coming from? That doesn't make sense. So Mary ends up being like, you don't think it was rude for you to like leave my house? And Meredith is like, well, I didn't feel welcome anymore. And clearly you've been holding like a lot of hostility towards me. And I just wanted to leave. And Mary's like, I didn't tell you to leave. I basically was like asking you and Angie to chill out, and neither one would, and you left. And she was like, that's because I didn't feel welcome. And Mary's like, I've seen you be in more toxic situations before in other people's houses, and you never left theirs, so why did you leave mine? And again, Meredith reiterates, I didn't feel welcome, girl. And so they start going back and forth where Meredith is just like, I've always had your back, and I thought you always had my back and was going to defend me. And it seems like you were okay with Angie like bombarding me and you didn't say anything. So they both get really frustrated because Mary ends up being like, what you did like severed our friendship. And Meredith is like, seriously? And Mary's like, yeah. And then, Mary's just like, she's tired. She's like, I don't want to deal with this. She was like, I'm out of it. I'm like, I'm done. I'm leaving. And so Meredith's like, okay, Mary, bye. And she's like, bye. And then we see Mary walk off. Honestly, I kind of get where Meredith is coming from, but I also get where Mary's coming from. It definitely feels like either Meredith wanted a reason to have an attitude or make a moment with Mary, but on the other hand, I also feel like she is bothered by the relationship that Mary and Angie has. But then I think about how when there was virtually nobody talking to Mary, and the only way Mary had an access way back into the group was Meredith, I think Meredith feels like, girl, you owe me a different type of loyalty than the rest of these ladies because nobody was talking to you. And she's not wrong. Like, I think it was like season 2 and like 3 was really bad for Mary. Season 3 was really bad for Mary. But season 2, I don't think anybody was fooling with Mary. Like, Mary had ruffled everybody's feathers the wrong way. So nobody was speaking to her. In season 3, nobody was really like standing up for her or really being there to a certain extent other than Meredith. So I think Meredith is like, well, girl, I was there for you all these other times and you can't be here for me and check your friend. Yeah, there's a problem. But I also feel like you can't do that, Meredith. Like, you can't just expect people to have like blind loyalty to you. I also feel like Meredith and Mary's relationship reminds me of Cynthia and Kenya from Real Housewives of Atlanta, where Cynthia took pride in being like the Kenya whisperer and like would get bothered when people would see Kenya like for who she is. Like, as sometimes Kenya is a very nice and kind and funny and goofy person, but it was like Cynthia only wanted to be like the one that saw that in Kenya and like have. Next scene we have is with Lisa and Angie and their kids going to the aquarium. I like Henry. Lisa's son, he seems like he's cool. Like, Angie had this stuffed snake that they have at all zoos and aquariums that I guess she was gifting to Henry. And she was like, oh, you might not like it because, you know, you're too old for that. And Henry was like, who said I was too old for stuffed animals or I didn't like them? Give me my snake. And I thought that was funny. But we find out that Lisa invited Angie and Electra to the aquarium because Lisa misses Angie. She misses her relationship with Angie. She was like, I used to talk to Angie all the time. Angie and I used to always take each other's phone calls and really like be there for each other. And I miss that. And Angie even says in her confessional, she knows Lisa is missing her and because she was a really good friend to her. So she was like, this makes sense. We end up seeing them do like this educational, like behind the scenes situation with a ball python. I like ball pythons. And then we have this scene of them going into the actual like aquarium area and the kids run off and start going around looking at stuff and Angie and Lisa sit down and have a conversation. So it starts off with Lisa, I think, pretty much saying, like, what's up with me and you? She said, I feel like everything changed after the Bezos party, after, you know, me and you got into it. She said, honestly, I don't have an issue with you being friends with Whitney. What I have a problem with is that you were running back and telling Whitney the business that I told you, and I didn't think that was fair or right. And, you know, she was just like, why would you do something like that? Like, why, like, why? And Angie pretty much was just like, girl, I didn't do that. I was like, Angie, you did. You did. Lisa even was just like, girl, even with it, when it comes to like Heather telling me that you said that I was a bad mom, instead of talking to Heather, I came to you. I said, you're lying, Lisa, because you talked about to everybody around this lady before getting to her. And then Lisa starts to get emotional. She was like, you're supposed to be my friend, like girl. And then Angie said, girl, I never said that you were a bad mother. I think you're a great mother. I said you were a bad friend, but not a bad mother. And then Angie says, you know, at times, Lisa, I always feel like I'm like auditioning or like I'm trying to like prove to you that you have to be like, that I'm your friend because I feel like you don't trust me. And Not Heather, but what's her name? Lisa ends up being like, you don't have to prove anything to me. I can defend myself. I don't need you to defend me, but I need you to like check people when I'm not there. Like how, you know how many times Whitney has lied on me? She lied on my business, lied on me, lied on my marriage, said I was doing things that you know aren't true. And instead of you saying like, Whitney, that's not true, you just letting her do it. Like, for real, like, I like, when you gonna say something? And so Angie was like, whoa, okay, breathe. Like, breathe. And she's like, can I share something with you, Lisa? And Lisa's like, yeah. And Lisa's actually really calm, surprising. And Angie basically says that, you know, when my mom was very chaotic and it was full of chaos, I got quiet. And sometimes you get to that same level of chaos and stuff, and I don't say anything. I get kind of deer caught in headlights and I get quiet. And I'm realizing I should be speaking up to you or saying more to you because I'm not honoring my feelings, and then that makes me resentful. And I think Lisa was like, I want you to tell me these things. I want you to talk to me because, like, you my girl, you know? So then Angie ends up apologizing to Lisa. Lisa accepts it. I don't think Lisa apologized. I don't think she did. But Angie was appreciative that Lisa was calm and she didn't get like too loud or too wild, and she was actually like listening to her, because Angie ends up being like, this is the first time me and Lisa had a conversation, and I feel like she's actually listening to me and taking in what I'm saying. So then, you know, Angie with her Greek facts had to tell us that I think the Greek name for fish sounds like sorry, or I'm sorry, or something like that. They laugh and they hug each other. Angie tells Lisa that she loves her. Lisa says that she loves Angie, and we move on from there. We then see everybody getting ready for the camping trip or the camping activities, and you see Mary at her house trying to pick out an outfit, and she reiterates how, like, this is not the Robert Jr. that I know. Like, the Robert Jr. I know, like, will come into my room, sit on, you know, like, sit in my big chair, and we would just debrief and talk all day about, like, everything going on in our lives. Now it's like I barely see him. He's barely at home. Like, I just really want my child back, and I don't know like what else to do. So we see, I think, Whitney and Heather setting up for the ladies to come to, you know, the campsite. They have on their Girl Scout outfits. They reference Beverly Hills Troop, and that's like their, you know, why they're in green and in tan. And then we see two cars. You have Angie and Mary in a car, and then Meredith, Lisa, and Bronwyn in the car together. The car that has Bronwyn, Lisa, and Meredith, they're all talking about who's been to camp and who hasn't been to camp. We find out that Lisa and I think Meredith did go to camp. And Lisa, we're talking about, you know, you go there, it's a cultural thing. You meet people that you might want to do business with later on. And so Meredith is like, girl, so you was trying to find business partners at 8 years old? She said, yeah. Yeah. Aaron was like, Lisa, shut up. Bronwyn looks like one of like the, like, you know, the lady that's over a troop. I don't know what they call them. I never did Girl Scouts, but she got the hat. She in the khaki jumpsuit, the same color that Heather and Whitney had on. I thought it was funny. So Bronwyn talks about how, like, she was actually surprised that Heather and Whitney invited her together. She didn't think she would get an invite from Heather. And then Meredith was like, I didn't think I would get one from Whitney. But then they were like, why wouldn't you think you would get an invite? Like, why is it weird that you're getting an invite from both of them? And Bronwyn ends up being like, because, like, you know, Whitney doesn't have anything really nice to say about Heather. And Lisa said, oh, so she might really be the two-faced one in this group. And then they asked Meredith about her relationship with Mary, and Meredith tells them, like, we went to the museum. She was an hour late. So that was already saying a statement. And then she told me I severed our friendship by walking out. And so both Bronwyn and Lisa are like, whoa, like, for real? Like, she really felt that way? And they were like, and Meredith's like, yeah, that's how she felt. So I don't know where we go from here from that, you know? So then in the car that has, what's their names? The car that has Mary and Angie, you got Angie and asking, Mary how she's doing. She's like, she's all right. She was like, so how are you and Meredith? And she was just like, girl, I'm over it. She was complaining about me being late, but girl, she's living in Park City. I live in Salt Lake, and it's like, if you would stop renting in Park City and rent in Salt Lake, maybe I would be there on time, because it actually really took me an hour to get to you. I said, ooh. And so then you got Angie throwing in her own shade, where she's just kind of like, I was actually surprised that like she didn't steal one of your like Versace vases, because she took her parting gift right after she walked out. Like, I thought she was going to take something from everybody. And she's just kind of like, yeah, like, I don't have it today to deal with Meredith. And then she's like, I don't want to deal with nobody. Like, nobody needs to come at me, because today is not going to be a good day. That's Mary. She said, I'm feeling defensive. I'm not with it today. So we get back to the car with Bronwyn, Lisa, and Meredith. And you got Bronwyn in her confessional being like, I pride myself, and like I told the girls that like, if I see some BS, or if I see something that's like hypocrisy, I'll call it out. But now I'm starting to realize that everybody is showing like hypocrisy. She's like, it's like I have like one of those boards with pictures, and I'm putting strings to everybody talking about this, talking about that. It's just a lot going on, and it's a lot of people talking about behind everybody's back, y'all. So the ladies are still trying to get to where Whitney and Heather are at. We see Millie and Brittany pull up first. I was surprised to see Millie, because I said, girl, they finally kept a scene with you in it. Because finding out that Millie actually has been filming consistently with the ladies for the most part, and they like have pretty much erased her from the show, is wild. Okay. So, they're bringing food, because everyone's supposed to bring food, because it was like a potluck. So we then end up seeing Lisa, Meredith, and Bronwyn get there. Lisa got this like special ice cream, so it probably has like alcohol in it. And then, the THC or something like that. And she also brought crumble cookies, which I died. Finding out that crumble cookies originated in Utah will never not be crazy to me, because it makes sense why those cookies are so sugary. I think one crumble cookie is like 3,000 calories or something like that. And if you know how much sugar Mormons intake, because their doctrine says that they can't drink warm liquids like tea or coffee, you would be so like, after watching that show on Hulu, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and seeing the way those girls who are around my age were just guzzling down like soda for breakfast. And one of the girls was like, yeah, I drink like a 48 ounce all the time. I said 48 ounces. No, I think it was like 42. Either way, I said it's like in the morning. And they're like, yeah. And then they explained that soda shops are basically the equivalent to like what a Starbucks and a Dunkin' Donuts is. Like, think of like shaved ice with all the different syrups you can put in it, but instead of the basis being shaved ice, it's soda. It's like either a Sprite or like Mountain Dew or Pepsi or Coca-Cola or like, I don't know, ginger ale or something, and then you add syrup to it. I said, I'm surprised y'all don't be getting headaches from that much sugar. So they all sit down for the time being, because they're waiting on Angie and Mary to get there. And I guess it had been an hour so, because you see Lisa eating some of her ice cream. I think I also saw Whitney eating something. And then next thing you know, you see Lisa leaning forward like, oh my gosh, Meredith, Mary's here, Meredith. And they're like, and Meredith's like, oh, I guess this is her new thing to be 45 minutes to an hour late. I guess that's what we do now, because they ended up being late. So they sit down, they say hi to everybody. And then I don't know how Brittany started talking about her relationship with Jared, but all of a sudden she started talking about her relationship with Jared, how they're in a better place, how she was taking pictures with Donny Osmond, and they're like, girl, he's using Donny Osmond to get back in your panties. And she's like, no. And then they were like, girl, you should just get with Donny. if anything. And they're like, girl, he married. And then Brittany's like, I'm not a fame whore, you guys. And Lisa's like, girl, we're just teasing you. It's not that deep. And then production ends up asking Brittany in her confessional, like, so are you guys back together? And she's like, no, we're not back together. Like, it's something about, me and Jared, like we it's a hamster wheel. I get off, I get back on, I get off, I get back on. We're always drawn to each other. Girl, just because you like toxicity. And then she ends up saying that, like, she doesn't care what Jared does when they're not together because she's been dating like 10 guys right now. And she thinks that's a flex, but it's not. Like, why do you want your time to be consumed in such a way like that? Like, I could get you saying you dating like 4 or 5, because that's different. Like, if you're talking to 2 people like on a dating app, actively dating 2 other people, and you just started talking to another person, I can see it. It happened all the time while I was in college. But I've never met a girl that was dating 10 dudes at once. That, I think Brittany just said it because she wanted the girls to think that she was hot shit. And I was like, girl, so everyone's like, what do you mean? Like, you're sleeping with them? Like give us context. She was like, I'm BYU dating. Like, I kissed him, at the end of the date, but like nothing else happens. And then they were like, so are you soaking? And they were like, what do you mean what's soaking? I didn't even know what soaking was until Heather explained it. It's basically putting a penis into a vagina, but not moving. So I said, so y'all are just like this, just laying there? What? What? If you already in, you might as well go all the way through. And so they were like, how does that work? Like, where you're already putting a penis into a vagina. Like, how is that not sex or classified as sex? And so Heather was like, well, if you go to your priest and they ask you, was there thrusting? Was there, like, I guess, bumping? And did you orgasm? And if none of those 3 things happened, then you're still pure in the eyes of the Lord. I said, girl, what? What? Girl, no. So they get off of that and they end up doing potato sack racing. So the teams are split. You got Heather's team, Whitney team. So Lisa, Angie, Brittany, and Heather are on one team. And then Mary, Meredith, and Bronwyn and Whitney are on one team. Heather's team ends up winning and Whitney's team ends up losing because like Mary didn't really want to do anything. She was like scooting and everybody else was like jumping. Lisa was like, if I keep jumping, I'm going to pee on myself. And they were like, Kegel, Kegel, Kegel. They were like, I said, okay. Okay, so then the ladies sit down to actually start really eating the food that was brought. And they were like, well, I think Heather ends up being like, so what was your best moment in like, being in like, I guess, sleepaway camp or doing this when you were a kid? And then Brittany says, when they let you go out into the woods, and they were like, Millie's like at 12. Yeah. And they give you like a sack and everything. And you're supposed to like, I guess, commune with nature and commune with God. And Heather ends up being like, yeah, I feel closest to God when I'm in nature as well. The episode I enjoyed the most because when I tell you it was so chaotic, it was so chaotic. It was pure chaos. And all I could do was laugh and giggle because everybody was hitting everybody. And it was like this person would go, then another person would go, and then this person would go. And I was just like, what is going on? I wanted to be like, somebody stand down, blow the whistle, flag on the play, let it go. So after Heather ends up asking, the ladies that went to like sleepaway camp, what was their favorite part? You have Angie asking Brittany, so are you still practicing the Mormon faith? And Brittany's like, yeah, I'm a practicing Mormon. So then Angie says, so does your priest know that you drink? And Brittany's like, yeah, he knows that I drink. So then Angie's like, because, it's different in my faith. We're allowed to drink. We're allowed to do these things. But I just think it's weird that you wanted to chastise me for bringing you a bottle of wine at your Wednesday night Bible study, but yet you're sitting amongst us and you're drinking. Okay. And Brittany was like, well, I did think it was a little odd that you brought me wine when you knew where you were coming to. So then Angie is like, it was odd, but yet you thanked me for the wine. And they showed the text message where Brittany ends up saying, by the way, the wine was so delicious. Jared and I drank it the other night. Thank you again so much. You're so cute. That was actually really thoughtful. So Angie's like, girl, what is it? Either you're mad that I brought the wine or you're okay with it. So then you have Mary sitting beside Angie being like, it's two-faced. I said, is it, you mean Two-Face? She said, no, it's Two Faces. And so Meredith chimes in and she's like, I don't really think she meant to like shame you or disrespect you. I think she was just sharing her feelings. And then and Mary's like, no, Meredith, it was Two-Face. And like, honestly, like, maybe we all need to figure out how we deal out manners and be respectful to each other, because like a lot of y'all could like learn from that. So then Brittany is like, who are you to be talking to anybody about manners when you're asking people to leave your house? Like, who are you? So then Mary ends up being like, shut up, Brittany, I'm not speaking to you. I said, ooh. She was like, zip it. Shut up. I said, oh. And Brittany's like, and she was about to say something, but you see Heather kind of tap her on her shoulder like, girl, you don't want that fight. You don't want that fight. So Brittany got quiet. So then Mary ends up being like, Meredith, it was actually quite rude that you left my home. Like, very rude that you left my home. And then Meredith's like, well, you kicked me out. And Mary's like, I did not kick you out. I told both you and Angie, if you could not calm down and stop yelling in my home, then you need to leave. I never kicked you out of my home. Never kicked you out of my home. So then the conversation transitions. Like I said, the conversation transitions because then you have Meredith like still arguing with Mary, but then Angie jumps in and basically was like, girl, I thought you was about to steal one of her vases. I think it was called like Lordo or something like that. You got Bronwyn being like, not the Lordo. What? And so because Angie is like, girl, you left her house, but you took your gift that she gave to all of us and you took the party gift. So then Meredith is like, I grabbed my things as I was leaving, but if she wants the gift back, she can have it back. It ain't that deep to me. Okay. So then Whitney chimes in and Whitney is like, well, Meredith is doing what Lisa does. She holds on to grudges. So then Lisa's like, girl, don't lie on me. Do not lie on me. Because if we really want to talk about who holds on to things and who's two-faced and fake in this group, let's talk about you and the things that Bronwyn has told us about what you said about Heather. So then Whitney is like, what did I say about Heather, Bronwyn? And Heather ends up asking Bronwyn, what has she said about me? So then Bronwyn ends up saying that Whitney and Angie said that you're really up Lisa's ass and it's hindering your relationships with the two of them. And so Whitney is like, that is not what I said. That is not what I said. Heather, I will tell you what I said. I said that Lisa and Angie and I Angie and I have issues with Lisa, and you being friends with Lisa right now has made it hard for us to be able to maneuver our friendship. I never said you were up her ass or you were just being her lackey like that. So then Heather downplays what Whitney says and it's like, well, no, she's told me this already. She told me how she felt about it, so it's not that big of a deal. So then Whitney is in her confessional being like, oh, Bronwyn, you want to throw us under the bus? You better be prepared for that bus to be ran back over you. So let's if you want to go there, we can go there. So then Angie lies and said, aren't you the one that told us that Lisa can't be a real friend to anybody, Bronwyn? So Bronwyn's like, no. I never said that. I never said that. I said when we were walking around that you guys told me that Lisa is not a good friend to people. She hurts people when she's angry. And I told y'all, I don't know that Lisa. I haven't met her yet. And I'm sorry that y'all have gone through that. And they do the flashback. And that's what Bronwyn said. So I said, girl, not they lying on a girl like this, just blatantly. As they're arguing back and forth, you hear Angie tell Bronwyn, you might need to borrow Meredith hearing aids and turn them all the way up. And Bronwyn's like, no, girl, my hearing is all the way together. I know what I heard and I know what it was. Then you got Meredith saying, oh, wow, we're making fun of the impaired now. When I tell you I screamed, I said, because it was the way that Meredith said it. She said, oh, so now we're making fun of the impaired. Which, I don't think Angie was making fun of the impaired. Was it a joke that was in poor taste and could be taken offensively? Yeah. Yeah, like I don't have hearing aids. I'm not the person that she was referencing. So I can understand why Meredith's feelings were hurt, or she felt some type of way. Like, why you taking a shot at me? I ain't said nothing to you. But I when I tell you, I screamed. And it wasn't even like when Angie made the like, you need to put on Meredith's hearing aids and turn them all the way up. It was just the way Meredith was like, oh, so now we're making fun of the impaired. Like, it was so like, oh, okay, here we go. It felt like something out of The Office, and I screamed. I screamed because I said, she said, oh, so now that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing? Okay. Okay. So then So then out of nowhere, Lisa and Mary start to argue because I think Lisa starts to speak up about somebody being fake or something. And then Mary was like, Lisa, you're one of the fakest people I ever met. So then Lisa's like, Mary, you're one of the fakest people I ever met. She was like, and then she was like, no, you are. She was like, you're the one that's saying you're traveling to Milan and all of this stuff in your bathing suit and all of that stuff. And Lisa's like, oh, so you mad that I got a stylist that travels to Milan for me? And I will say, Lisa did post the girl. I think her name is Danny or Dina. She posted her on Twitter where she was like, thank you for styling me for BravoCon. So she wasn't lying. So they're going back and forth arguing. So Mary's like, girl, you're fake. And Lisa's like, girl, you're fake. And I mean, they're just like yelling back, saying the same thing to each other. See, she was like, you're the fakest person I ever met, Lisa. She was like, I don't even know why you're even here. They're arguing back and forth. Then she was like, you wore the same jumpsuit as me. And so Bronwyn is like, seriously, that's what we arguing about in her confessional. So then Lisa's like, oh, is this what this is about, that I wore the same Tiffany blue jump set Fendi, and you're just mad that I sat front row by Kim Kardashian and Sarah Jessica Parker? Is that what you're mad about? That what you're mad about, Mary? So they yelling. And so Bronwyn says in her confessional, this is a stupid argument. She said Mary's upset about something else other than what she has with Lisa, because she's like, I guess Mary's trying to say, well, I wore mine on TV, you wore yours to walk around my house. And then Bronwyn was like, ooh, you know what? That's kind of good shade, Mary. But Mary's like, you want to look like me? And Lisa said, as if, and they're going back and forth. And then Mary brings up, like, I don't even know why Meredith is your friend. You were the one that said that she was having sex with everybody over in New York. And so Lisa's like, see, that's the only thing y'all can bring up about me. So girl, shut up. Keep talking, Mary. Keep talking. Shut up, Mary. Keep talking. And then so then Mary is like, girl, you shut up, you dingbat. And then someone blows a whistle. I think it was either Whitney or Meredith. But I remember Whitney being like, okay, we need to taper this. We need to taper this right here, right now, and let it go. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people said that this is the argument where I think Lisa brings up Mary's son and his addiction, and Mary ends up calling Henry the R word. So I think someone said online, like, this is where they edited all of that stuff out. I don't know if that's to be true, but that's what people are alleging. But it was definitely a stupid argument. So they end up being quiet after Whitney was like, we just need to stop all this argument. We just need to chill out. And Mary's in her confessional crying because she was like, I don't have it for Lisa. Like, she want to mess with me. And I said, no, Mary, you started this with Lisa. Like, unless they took out like Lisa doing something to you, Lisa wasn't even directing her like energy towards you. You just brought up her name, calling her fake and two-faced and all of that stuff. And I know like Mary Crosby's fan page has said that like they got into an argument at the house at they're alleging that Lisa and Mary got into an argument last episode that they edited out. I don't know if that's true, but either way, even though we didn't see that argument, even here right now, Lisa wasn't even paying Mary any attention or giving her any fever. Mary is the one that gave her the most fever because she angry. She's overwhelmed and she angry about her child. Like so everything's kind of calming down after Whitney is trying to like rein the girls in. Mary just told Lisa to go jump into the river that they was doing this potato sack race near. And then it's just awkward. It's awkward. And I don't know if someone was like, does anybody else have anything to say? But then you have Meredith basically saying anybody making fun of someone's impairment should be ashamed and embarrassed. And I find that utterly reprehensible and offensive, and it's not okay. So then Angie was like, I wasn't making fun of your impairment, Meredith. And Meredith was like, how are you not making fun of me using hearing aids when you basically referenced me saying, why don't you borrow Meredith's hearing aids and turn them all the way up? Like, how am I not supposed to take that as a dig? And so Bronwyn ends up saying, this is utter like it's bullshit. Like, y'all been riding me all this time about how I'm like two-faced, sneaky, or doing all this stuff, but like everybody's talking about how everybody's back, and it is what it is. And so Angie's like, I haven't done anything to you, Bronwyn, for you to even think that like what you just did was okay. And it's not okay. I didn't. And then next thing you know, I think Bronwyn gets quiet after saying her spiel. So then Angie starts yelling, saying, Brahma, you need to shut the F up and let me have a conversation with Meredith, and let Mary and Meredith have their conversation, and let Whitney and Heather do them. Like, you always, like, you don't need to be in this. And so Brahma's like, I'm not even saying anything right now, Angie, so don't tell me to shut the F up. And so I think Angie was like, well, you need to shut the F up. And I'm talking to Meredith. And Meredith's like, I don't know why you're talking to me, because I'm not listening. So then Bronwyn basically tells Angie, you tell me to shut the F up one more time again. And you could tell she's getting emotional. She was like, this will be the last time you see me. And if Angie was really about that, she would have told her, girl, shut the F up. It is what it is. Like, I don't have to see you, girl. If Angie was really that girl, she would have been like, you just got here, so shut the F up. like what's up? So Angie is kind of sitting there because I don't think she really wants beef with Bronwyn, because she seems to like Bronwyn, but she's irritated that Bronwyn threw her and Whitney under the bus. So it's like she got to get that smoke in Angie's eyes. So then Mary ends up saying she should have never left my house, and this probably wouldn't have been an issue, or we wouldn't be having these problems. So you see Whitney trying to console Bronwyn, because it does seem like she was getting emotional after the whole fight situation. And you see the rest of the girls pile into their cars, and Heather saying in her confessional, like, this was supposed to be something that like brought us together, but that did not happen. And she's like, I feel like it just drove us farther and farther apart. We are at Meredith's place because they're having a Shabbat dinner. I don't know the cultural significance of Shabbat. I'll probably put it on the screen if I find a good definition about it. But they're having this dinner at Meredith's house. She only invited Brittany, Heather, Lisa, and Bronwyn. And it's a nice like little setup. We see Brittany and Jared get there first. Girl, why is Jared here? Brittany, this is why people think you a groupie bird pygmy heifer. Because why is this man here? And why is Jared always chewing on gum? Like, is it like nicotine gum, or does he have bad breath? Because he's always chewing. He walked up in there, hey, nice to meet you. Like, why are you always chewing on gum? It's annoying. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you always need gum in your mouth? So, because I'm just like, I feel like it's either nicotine gum or he got bad breath. Either way, I'm just sick of seeing a man in like his probably 50s chewing on gum every time we see him. Spit it out, okay? So we see them get there. We see Brittany. We then see Bronwyn and Todd get there. Bronwyn introduces Brittany to Todd. It's kind of awkward. She even makes a comment like, my booty hole is clenched, because we know Brittany has said some things about Todd, and Bronwyn probably ran back and told her husband, and here they are meeting each other. Heather was already there, but I think Heather was the first person to get there, so she's talking to Brooks and his sister, and they were like, is soaking like a real thing? And she was like, yeah. And Brooks is like, oh, I thought it was a myth. And she was like, no, it's not a myth, but that jumping on the bed thing is a myth, where it's like the couple is soaking and then you have their friends jumping on the bed. And I said, Heather, I don't think that's a myth. Y'all just didn't do that when y'all were at BYU. But I went down the BYU rabbit hole like years ago, where they were asking people like, do people do this? Do people do that? And they were actually like, yeah, people do that. Like, I've helped my friend do it too. So I was just like, yeah, girl, you may not do it, but the new generation is doing it. So we get off of that, and like Heather's like, oh, let me go say hi to Alan, basically calling Todd Alan. I said, stop being disrespectful, Heather, before that lady gets you about and playing with her husband. You better chill out. So Lisa and John get there. They're the last group. They sit down and, they light the candles. They sing a Hebrew prayer, and then, everyone starts to eat. And then I think they get on the conversation about like who is Jewish. So we find out that Jared's family, that like I think like his uncle or like one of his relatives, they found out through like ancestry that is Jewish. And then Lisa speaks up and she was like, well, oh, John is half Jewish too, because his dad. And she was like, we found that out because of like ancestry, like DNA. And then John said, honestly, Lisa found that out. I didn't find any of that out. So what we found out is that John did an ancestry DNA kit thing, and Lisa took all that information and started to like link him to his friends and family, being like, oh, this is your mother, this is this is your dad, this is this. And Lisa was like, it caused a lot of issues, but like we needed to know. And so Braun was like, oh, so you just do this all the time, like, and Lisa's like, no, your and I is kismic. Everything else, that was my man. I was gonna make sure he was good. So time goes on and all of that stuff, and we have Lisa end up saying, how does everybody feel about what happened the other day? Heather ends up saying that she cried because she was like, it sucked, like, the event sucked so bad. Lisa said, like, yeah, she still has issues with Mary after that because she doesn't even know what's up with Mary. And so Bronwyn ends up being like, yeah, it was a lot. So then Heather ends up being like, why tell us now about what the things that they've been saying behind our back? And so Bronwyn basically ends up saying, like, there's a difference between somebody venting and somebody being shady and, talking behind your back. And it all depends on where you are together. Like, are y'all cool now or are y'all not cool? Heather ends up saying, well, like, I think in all friend groups, people talk a little shit about each other. I said, girl, your friend groups do that because of that faith you believe. Religious people, whether you're a Mormon, you're Jewish, you're Baptist, Catholic, whatever, when people are really staunched in their religion, like the church gossips, the best gossip comes from church. But there are a certain sector of like churchgoers who talk about everybody that they're connected to. And Heather is one of those people. Because I said, I ain't never heard nobody say like all friend groups talk shit about each other a little bit. I said, no, that's your friend group, not mine. All right. And so, matter of fact, girl, get a therapist if you want to talk trash about them. That's it. So Bronwyn basically ends up saying, like, I'm not absolved from this too. I can be a little snarky, a little cheeky. I can be a little snarky. See you next Tuesday. And Todd ends up being like, don't say that. And it like embarrassing her. And I get it. She probably shouldn't have said that because it was like y'all are celebrating a religious holiday and that could be or is disrespectful. But I'm like, if you wanted to check her, you should have checked her in like a nonverbal way. Maybe like tapped her on the leg. Like my sister always like presses my leg when I say something I shouldn't. Like markers to let you know you need to reel it back in. But I feel like the way that Todd does it, it just makes me feel like he's okay with like belittling her. And I'm just like, and maybe I probably wouldn't have felt this way hadn't we seen the previous episodes, but now it just feels like, girl, he's Oscar the Grouch and needs to get over himself. Like, your wife is on a reality show. I don't care if he didn't know the context of what they were filming. We here now. And clearly after you've been around these ladies a couple of times, you know what it is. And he could have Googled and researched what this was about in the moment. Why are you saying he's too smart for me to believe that he didn't research this information before getting on TV? No. So she kind of clears it up. So then as they're talking, I think Lisa ends up asking Meredith, like, how are you? So Meredith ends up saying, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to feel about Mary. Like, she's been acting really differently. And this is not a Mary that I know. So I don't know where to go from here. I don't know if something's going on or something. You have looks of Lisa and Heather and Bronwyn kind of like looking at each other, which makes me feel like they know somewhat of what is going on to a certain extent. And if the rumor is true that like the whole altercation between Mary and Lisa, where, Mary calls Henry the R word and Lisa brings up her son's drug addiction, then they definitely know what's going on. But I don't know, the way that they're playing it in this scene, they're acting like they don't know what's going on. Maybe Lisa was alluding to him possibly having a problem, but who truly knows? But it seems like at the table, they all kind of knew what they were talking, like, what was happening. So then Brittany speaks up and she's just like, well, I think we should listen to Meredith. Like, I definitely think there might be something wrong with Mary and we should just give her grace. I found crazy coming from Brittany when I was like, that lady just told you to shut up. It's been on your ass since episode 1. But she has enough common sense to be like, maybe we should give the lady grace if y'all saying that she acting out of character. Maybe something truly is going on with her. We have is of Mary and Robert Jr. So you got Mary going to Robert's room being like, can I talk to you? And he's like laying in bed. He wakes up. He's like, yeah. And she sits down on the couch in front of his bed. He kind of, comes to like the couch and he sits down and she's just like, what's up with you? Like, what's up with you? They show us a voiceover, all these different pictures of Robert, and Mary just being like, the Robert I know was goal driven, goal oriented. He was motivated. He was kind. He was caring. He was always like talking to me. He was my best friend. He was my everything. And the person that I see is sitting in front of me is not my son. And I just need to know what's wrong with him so I can like help. So she's like, how are you feeling? He said he couldn't go to sleep the night before, so he took a Xanax. Mary's eyes got big, and he was like, I took a half of one, and then I took Adderall. And she was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, to like balance it out. And she was like, you don't see that as a problem? And she's starting to get emotional because she's like, you really don't see that as a problem? And he's like, he doesn't really say anything. And she was like, well, you have to know that's a problem. Like, why? She's like, why would you take drugs when you've been blessed to wake up every day? Like, God gives you a chance to wake up every day. So then Robert ends up saying I think he says life is like just chicken unseasoned. When I get high, it's like adding seasoning to it. And then that's when it clicked on me. Yo, he got depression. Like that, like I feel like that is a perfect analogy to describe depression to somebody. Like, because we've all tasted unseasoned chicken and it's gross and it's bland and it's like blah, but you've tasted seasoned chicken and that's different. So I was just like, that's kind of deep. And so he's just like, so then she was like, when did you start doing this? And he was like, when I turned 16. Her eyes got real big after that. Because then it's like the realization that like, girl, you've been doing hardcore drugs for a while. So then he starts to explain to her, like, at first he was like, oh, I'm going to keep it all natural, just smoking, weed and stuff. And then he was like, he went to a party and tried ecstasy for the first time. And then he liked it. So then he started mixing, or was it oxy? Either way, he started trying like hardcore pills. And then he started mixing it with like acid and coke. When he said cocaine, I said, whoa, you got money for cocaine? I said, well. And Mary just starts crying. And then when he said, I took 30 milligrams of oxy. And what's crazy is like the high school that I went to, my friends oftentimes joke and say, girl, you basically went to Euphoria High, because I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood and in the right area. But like a lot of the kids were taking drugs. Like I learned so much about drugs because of them. Like I figured out what shrooms were, with acid, oxy. I feel like I didn't even know about lean, but I knew about robo tripping because across the street from my school was a huge grocery store chain, and they would mix Robitussin and put it in Sprite or Gatorade and then put sour Skittles in it. But they would pour in half the bottle of Robitussin and drink it all throughout the day. And so like I know a lot about when people try hard substances. And so she starts crying. He says like he knew he reached a point of no return when he took 30 milligrams of oxy and it was like 10 tabs and he was fine. Or like he was kind of numb to it. I said, you could have OD'd. And she even was like, you could have died. And he was like, there was a point where I wanted to. And then she was like, do you know what that would do to me? Do you know what that would really do to me? She was like, no, I don't think I could live if you did that. And like, I didn't start like tearing up until Robert Jr. started crying. And then he was just like, he felt like a stain on the family. He wasn't happy. And he just now started to feel happy. And when Mary was like, I was never happy until you came into my life, I was like, wow, y'all need therapy. Y'all need therapy, and I hope you get help, Robert Jr. I know he's in rehab. I hope it worked and they gave him the tools in order to combat the demons that he has. But all I got from that scene was, this is a kid that was probably severely sheltered, that was put on a high pedestal by his mom because, Mary is extravagant. She's a lot. She's extra. And then she holds this prestigious title in the community. And he's a preacher kid. They always crash out because there's always this weight that's put on them. And then him saying that he felt like a stain, probably felt like he couldn't amount up to what his mom wanted him to be, or the expectations he had for himself. And then on top of that, you might be battling depression, and and then you're self-medicating because you don't want to admit that there's something wrong. And then you hear Mary being like, she knew he did weed, but she just started, like, she thought he was better or able to, like, subvert that. She also said she knew something was wrong, but she was ignoring it, hoping that it would fix itself. And that's a common thing that people do in very religious households. They'll just try to pray it away than actually do something about it. And we have Mary doing something about it. She ends up telling her son that, like, I love you, like, you're my best friend, you're my everything, like, you are my treasure, you are my gift, you are, like, I can't do this without you. You leave me, it's up, and it's stuck. She ends up being like, I love you more than your dad. Like, don't tell him that, but that's for real. He starts crying. He says, I love you. She was like, I want you to get the help because I'm not going to support you in this, and I'm not. But, like, if you want me to help you, I'll be there. And then they embraced each other, and I was just like, I really do hope he get it together. I do. Like, he's young. He's only like 22, 21. So he definitely has a lot of life to live. And if he gets a hold of it now, this could just be a story that he uses to drive himself to make better decisions and can help other people or push him to where he needs to be. But, like, I was like, dang. Like, we knew he was on that stuff, but it's just like to see them both break down and cry to each other, it was needed. You could tell that he had been holding that stuff in, and to see Mary be crushed because she was like, I feel like I dropped the ball somewhere. And you did, but it's not all your fault. Like, I don't think anybody knows what to do when they find out that, like, their child is on drugs. And I think the way that Mary was open to and saying that I'm not going to judge you, and I think she truly meant that, made it easy for Robert Jr. to be honest and be real with himself. Because legit, like, after watching that scene, I was like, this was a raw ass scene. Like, they was honest as hell. And I don't think many people could be, especially not on no Bravo reality TV show. So I commend them for sharing this and being willing to share it and open and signing off, for us to see it. I hope he gets better. I do, but I also think that Mary needs to go in therapy because I think she has infantilized her child. He still got Robert Jr. over his bedroom. She has those huge pictures of him as a baby, but not as like an adult or like a college, like, a big graduation photos. I was like, there's no progression. So I think she has to start being in the mindset that, like, I have an adult child, so there's certain things that I won't be privy to, and there's certain ways I can't treat him anymore. I have to start treating him like an adult. But I do, again, hope he gets the help he needs because, like, I'm like, is Mary my favorite? No, but I would definitely hate to see her lose her child because I think she would lose herself if she lost him. Yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. And as always, remember to be bravely authentic, and please definitely hop down in them comments below and share your thoughts, as well as give me a like and subscribe if you like what you heard. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.